All righty. Hello, everybody. We are about to get started. Let's just make sure everybody joins in. I'm sure we've got a few stragglers. Awesome. Great. While we wait for everyone to join in, grab their cup of coffee, whatever it may be, if you can find the chat on the right side, yep, Ben just posted saying hi all. If you guys want to let us know where you're tuning in from, maybe any specific questions you may have, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be really conversating with you guys throughout this whole discussion. We want to make sure everything we talk about is relevant. Awesome. So we see some people coming in. KR from San Antonio.
Tucson.
Emily from Austin. Hey, you're down the road from me. I'm in Austin as well.
Andreas in Austin too.
Hey.
Where's my Chicago friends at?
Where's Chicago?
I haven't seen
Dallas.
any. No Chicago's yet. No, Scottsdale. Okay. What's up, Kate? Look at that. Chicago. I got a neighbor in here, Kate.
Nice. Jennifer, Chicago. Florence. Very cool. All right. Let's see here. We still got some folks joining in. The number's still ticking up. We've got about an hour that we're going to be taking today. If you're not able to stick around for the whole hour, no worries. We will send you the recording and you can come back and watch it anytime. If you are tuning in from the AU or the UK, you may be watching a rebroadcast of this. If that's the case, no worries. We have someone in the background who will be answering questions, and all of the things that we're going to talk about are going to be relevant to you. So just a heads up there if you're watching the rebroadcast of this. But I think we can go ahead and get started. That number looks like it's kind of settled in. We've got a great crowd today. I'm very excited. Houston from Lawrence from Houston. That's awesome. I'm actually moving there in a few months. If you have any food recommendations, let me know. I'm planning on eating everything there. It's going to be awesome. But let's go ahead and get started. And so before we jump into the discussion, let me just give you guys a little bit of a quick rundown of like housekeeping items and things like that. So a lot of you have already found the chat, which is great. Feel free to ask your questions, say hello, add your own input. If you have tips that maybe you've come across or things that you've noticed, we want to hear from you. We want this to be a conversation with us and you guys. We feel like that's the best way to deliver the most amount of value. And then next to the chat, we've got the Docs tab. And there we've got links to our Birdeye View 2025 virtual event, which is a free event. It's 2 days long. It'll be the third time we've hosted this event. And I think we're looking at like 25 different sessions, and they're all focused around AI, SEO, marketing. We're going to talk about this next era of AI that we're kind of going into, which is like the agentic era. Last year, we had folks from, I think, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI came and they spoke, and we're hoping to get some other heavy hitters as well for this year. It's completely free, and if you can't, it's a 2-day event. It's virtual. It's hard to attend an entire 2-day event virtually. But if you register, you'll get access to all the sessions, and you'll be able to go back and watch them however you want. We're going to have industry-specific tracks. We'll have different segments as well. So if you're like a smaller local business versus like a big chain or franchise, we're going to have content for you. It's going to be awesome. And so it's completely free to sign up, and it'll be added to your calendar, and you just get a few alerts and you'll be set to go. So definitely recommend doing that. We've also got some helpful guides about mastering your online reputation. We've also got a blog which was actually written by one of our guest speakers here, Adam, on how AI assistants are impacting search. And then we've got one of our most recent data reports of the state of online reviews, where we analyzed the data of over 150,000 businesses, and we calculated the average number of reviews, how many people are responding, what industries are generating more reviews. Really, it's a great benchmark report to kind of measure yourself up against to see how the rest of your industry and the rest of local businesses are doing when it comes to their online reviews. Awesome. Anika, you're asking, is there a way I can get my employee to join this webinar? If you send them the link, oh, he's in. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's in.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well then, yes. And then also just a reminder, if you aren't able to stick around, the slide's a little funky, but the recording will be made available. So feel free to check that out as well. Great. Now, let me introduce to you today's guest speakers. First up, we've got Ben Fisher, who is not making his first appearance here on the AI Success Series. Ben is one of our longtime guests and a close colleague of mine. He is the co-founder and lead consultant at Steady Demand. He's a Diamond Google Business Profile product expert. He's had over 30 years in SEO and local SEO. And he's a contributor to things such as like the local ranking factor study. And you can find him on X or Twitter at the Social Dude. Additionally, he also posts great stuff on LinkedIn as well. And I think we've got that. I think if you look at the speakers tab at the top of your page, I think we may have both of those accounts tagged. And then lastly, we've got Adam Dorfman, who is newer to Birdeye. He's making his first appearance on the AI Success Series. Adam's been in the SEO and local SEO space since 1999. He co-founded a company called Sim Partners in 2006, which specialized in local digital marketing solutions for various brands and enterprises. Sim Partners was acquired by a company called Reputation a few years ago. And then now he is here with us at Birdeye as the AVP of Product Management and Partnerships. Welcome, Adam. Welcome, Ben. Thank you guys so much for coming on. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got some really interesting topics to dig into. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I'm honored to be here with Mr. Adam Dorfman. Adam and I actually have run into each other, I think, multiple times over the past 20, 30 years. I don't think we've ever spoken with each other, though, have we, Adam?
I'm not sure that we have, but let's call it 20, not 30. We don't need to age ourselves.
Okay, fine.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know in our kickoff call, you guys were comparing souvenirs from PubCon and SEO events from way back in the day, just to kind of help gauge where you guys have been, which is great.
Well, I think we were both at the Google Dance, right? The Google Dance that Matt Cutts kind of came out at, which was in 2008, the blue shirt days.
Yep. I was certainly there at that one. That was fun.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great segue because clearly you guys have seen a lot of change and evolution over the years when it comes to Google, when it comes to local search, SEO in general. It feels like there's been a few different eras and a few different waves. And most recently, we are now in this AI search era. But what's interesting is there are now some other tools that are kind of making a name for themselves, like ChatGPT Search. Google's still there. They've got Gemini and they've got things like AI-Mode. Perplexity is also making some noise. There's a lot of variability now when it comes to how people are searching for local businesses or searching for information or products. And, from the numbers that we're seeing, Google's still the king. They're still the massive, holder of market share. But it is interesting to see how quickly these other tools are growing. And it's interesting to see how that consumer behavior is changing. So my first question is, how has the rise of these tools changed how people are discovering local businesses? What's the impact that you're seeing so far?
I want to go on to something you just said there that I think that's really important for people to understand, Justin, for at least people who've been, in this industry for over 20 years, as Adam states, right? And that is that Google has always been moving towards where we are today. They started out, maybe the first 10 years was all about links. But then after that, I remember this one TV interview they did with Sergey. And basically it was, basically Larry was saying, okay, well, everything is still about links. And then you had Sergey who was saying, no, it's about words, right? And they made a bet at that time. Where are we going to be in 10 years, right? Are we going to be with words? Or are we going to be with links? And here we are. We're with words. And this all actually really started to come about in 2013 when the great rewrite occurred. And everything shifted from links to semantic search. And again, semantic search is just another nice way of, kind of like machine learning itself, right? Which is kind of where we are today. with LLMs. It's not really AI in the traditional, Terminator sense of things. So what are we seeing now? And I'm sorry, Adam, I'm probably speaking way too much, my friend.
No, go ahead.
So where are we today? Today, where we are is we have a bunch of people who are taking advantage, again, of computers, doing computer things and answering questions, which is great for somebody like Google, because that is their basic mission, is to give a user, a consumer, or a merchant one simple answer based on a query. And since things have been based on text and links for so many years, of course, you've got this jumbled mess of information and different data points and data sources. So what's changed really is, or what's changing, I should say, is that user behavior is no longer going from, well, give me 30 different options to figure out what my solution is, down to one. And that's where the scary part for marketers is, and for businesses is. But
Can
I
I
guess
add something?
of course you
quick?
can, dude. Yeah, please.
Because I think the one, like everything you're saying is spot on. And the one thing that, Google's in a weird place right now where for the first time they have somewhat of an existential crisis. I think it's a bit overblown at the moment, but they paved the way for this too, along with the Hummingbird update and everything you just mentioned is there. But once they started returning answers within their search results, like Ben, I'm sure you remember the first time you did a search for weather. And I think that was one of the first things where they would just give you the weather instead of sending you to weather.com or another site. So they've been training users to expect this when doing any sort of searches, whether it's for a keyword or prompt. So in some senses, how AI is changing the way people find businesses, it's not changing the way that people, like how people want to find businesses or how they're thinking about finding businesses. What's changing slightly is the types of responses these search tools are bringing. And we'll get into what that means for all marketers and SEOs and things like that as well. Sorry for cutting you off, but just want to add that extra color.
No, dude. I mean, please cut me off. Otherwise, I'd talk for about an hour. No, I'm just kidding. But and absolutely. So you're right. Google has been training us for ages, to basically come to that one answer, right? If you put in 5, what's 5 plus 5? It's going to say 10. It's not going to say, go to this website to find your answer, which, by the way, is 10. It's going to say it's 10, and it's going to tell you why. And it's going to explain it a little bit more in depth. And so these other engines that are out there, when you've got things like, ChatGPT, which is Search GPT, or you've got Perplexity, or any other, like even U.com, right? They're trying to emulate the same exact thing, except they're kind of putting it into this bigger box, which is like, yeah, here's your answers, but there's all this other neat, cool stuff that you can do, from programming to making videos to making images, yada, 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 right? I think personally, the coolest feature, which nobody is using right now, and they will in the future, is deep research. And that should make anybody who is a journalist shake and quake in your boots, because deep research is amazing. It's awesome. It does everything that you would do for a search. You would look for days for this data, and it comes up with it in less than 20 minutes.
And not only that, it comes up with the data. It'll analyze the data so much faster than you or any algorithm you would have previously had to write yourself. So it'll do all of that for you as well.
Exactly. And it changes its reasoning based on data it finds too, like you would normally do yourself, right? It's like, oh, hey, it states this, hey, I just discovered this blog. I'm going to see what I can figure out here. It's like, okay, interesting. So, anyway, Justin, over to you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I just posted a question to the chat, and I'm curious if you guys have noticed this about yourselves, but have you noticed any change in your own search behavior? Like, when it comes to searching for a local business, I still find myself using Google or Google Maps, but if I have a question or if I'm looking for information that may require follow-up questions or maybe more of a conversation, I definitely go to ChatGPT. Or if I'm looking for like one-off type of answers where I would go to Google, but I would still have to search through the links, I actually go and use Perplexity for that, because in my mind, Perplexity is kind of the thing that goes and does the Googling and then goes through the links and then pulls the information. So it does a couple more steps. What about you guys? Have you guys noticed a change in yourself? How are you using these tools? Some of the folks in the audience are changing as well.
It's funny you asked that question because just this morning I have a friend in town for work, and she said, I've been stuck in a conference room for 3 days. For dinner, can we please go somewhere where I can see the lake? And I said, sure. And historically, I would have started that search on Google, or I would have started that search on Google Maps, and hopefully attribute filtering and things like that would have gotten me the answer that I wanted. This time I started on ChatGPT and said top 10 rooftop restaurants in Chicago that have a view of the lake. Received a list that was 7 of the 10 had views of the lake, 3 of the 10 had views of the rivers. Again, LLMs are far from perfect at this point, but all of which were relevant. But from there, that was great. But from there, that's not enough, So then I switched back to more traditional search, and I opened up Google Maps and looked at reviews. Did a few TikTok searches as well too to get a sense of the vibe of the place, because these LLMs are not great at providing that. Also, talking about shift in search, I think one thing that's was talked about for a while and is now for some reason fallen off, although I think behavior is still transitioning in that way. People are utilizing social media sites a lot more. Video is massive. TikTok, Instagram is really important if you have an experiential sort of business to make sure that you're looking at your presence there, trying to optimize your presence on those as well too. So long story long, found the place that we're going to, made a reservation on Google within the knowledge panel, and looking forward to catching up with my friend later this evening.
Right on. I'll say this, right? The first thing that I did when I got my latest iPhone is I bound ChatGPT to the button, right? I kind of haven't gone back ever since. And actually, I'd say probably a year ago, I started as soon as the app was available for the phone, I'm sitting here talking. It's like, hey, this is my device for search. Somebody in chat said, well, I still go to Google Maps for anything local. Me too, hands down. I don't trust any of these LLMs to really give great data for local resources. As a matter of fact, it depends on the day you use it. If you go to ChatGPT and you say, type in best pizza near me, it'll show you a bunch of places that are closed. Yeah. Okay, thanks. And maybe that's really the data that's coming in from Apple, but either way, it's inaccurate. So I still think that Google's king when it comes to local. This, of course, may change. Really? You're not hearing me? You all can hear me, right? Okay. All right. Sorry, Ida. I don't know why you can't hear me. So basically, but let's talk about. We talked about this in our warm up, right? And that was about search and kind of how that's changed in our own personal behavior. And one of the things I wanted to say is I have this experience where I was traveling. I noticed that somebody else was talking about traveling in the chat too. I was traveling. I was in Alaska. And I was heading down to Anchorage, basically, and I had been there before. And I was looking for this pizza place that had a Chicago-style pizza with the pepperoni being baked underneath of the cheese. It's delicious, right? So crispy, yum. Anyway, but I hadn't been there in over 7 years. So I'm like, where the heck was this place? I didn't even remember where I stayed last time because it was right across from this hotel. Anyway, long story short, I was getting ready to take the train down to Anchorage. I started just hitting up ChatGPT and asking it a bunch of questions. And when I say asking, I'm not typing these questions in. I'm just using my phone to do it. And I'm using the conversational search or conversational agent, basically, as a way of doing it. And just having a conversation saying, yeah, I had this pizza. It was like, da, 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 da. And I think it was around here in this type of area, but it was very specific. And, and I went around with about maybe, I don't know, 10 queries, and I found the place. This is not something you could do with Google. You just can't do this with Google. You couldn't keep on refining your search multiple times to get what you want. Only this engine was able to do that, basically. And so I guess what I'm saying is my personal search, the way it's changed me is that if I really want to find something, I'm going to go to ChatGPT probably first. And it's just the way it is. What about you, Ed?
Yeah.
You too? Or Justin?
Yeah. Like It varies. I try, so, part of the job, I try to stay up to date with a lot of these tools, but I've noticed that each tool kind of has its own different strength. Like, I love using Google Maps to find a local business because I like to see exactly how far away I am from the place. Because sometimes I feel like using ChatGPT and I say near me, I don't know how well it knows where I am. But whenever I like, we can even, I can even share my screen and go through a couple of examples.
Cool.
We've got some. Let me see here. Okay.
While you're pulling that up, Justin, one thing I'd add on that we touched on when we were speaking earlier last week is the tool, the type of query I'm doing is going to dictate the tool that I want to use. And that even goes with these LLMs and these AI sites as well too, to the extent where I find the example I used previously was I have a 15-year-old, and when I'm helping him with his English homework, I'm usually going to ChatGPT because it's really good at analyzing text, helping with grammar and so on. But if I'm helping him with his trigonometry, I'm going to Claude because it explains that I had forgotten 30 years ago much better than ChatGPT could. Similarly, when I'm doing searches for businesses or products, depending on what I want is going to dictate the tool that I go to as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And, that's kind of what I was trying to get to earlier when I was saying, like, if I have a question that requires maybe more of a conversation, like if my tire pressure light is out, I can go to ChatGPT and say, like, hey, my tire pressure sensor error light is on. What does that mean? And then it will give me the description of what it is. And then I can ask a follow-up and be like, okay, well, what can I do to fix that? Do I need to go to a place or can I do it myself? It'll give me the options. And then I can kind of continue my journey through that way. But if I have like a one-off question of like, who won the NBA game last night, I could go to Perplexity, or, even Google could do that. But I started to use Perplexity just out of practice and habit. But I started to use Google search itself as more of just like a directory. Like I'll type in LinkedIn or Twitter, or I'll type in birdeye.com if I need to go to the website for something. I kind of use it when I know when I know what I'm looking for, and when I know where I need to go, I'll go to Google. But if I'm looking for information, it'll be these AI tools. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I go about it now. But it's interesting. I don't necessarily do a whole lot of search on social media outside of maybe a few YouTube videos. I don't know if that's a generational thing. I know that like my youngest brother, he's 10 years younger than me, and he's all over TikTok and Instagram searching, and like that's how he like looks for customer, insights and things like that.
It's definitely a generational thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a client a few years ago who was a property management company, and they did nothing but apartments in college campuses. So they were essentially like renting out and managing apartments for college students. And 90% of the feedback that they would get was not on Google or TripAdvisor or like the review sites you would normally see. It was everybody was on Instagram and TikTok, and that's where they spent almost their entire time trying to understand what was going well, what wasn't going well, fielding complaints, responding to users, and meeting them where they are. So yeah, I'm with you, Justin. It does feel like a generational thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's heavy though. They really
Oh.
use it. Yeah, go ahead.
They do. And, I think that we were discussing this. It's like this AI search, if we want to call it that right now, really is not for our generation. It is actually for the generation that's coming up. We're playing with it. But if I remember correctly, we're just reading some recent stats. It's like, yeah, marketers are using it, but kids, I hate to say it the word like that, but younger generations, 15 plus are using social media, and they're starting to use the AI tools a lot, right? Because it's making their lives so much easier. It's like, oh, I couldn't write before, now I can. Oh, I couldn't make an image before, now I can. Justin, couldn't make a video before, now you did. Right? Like that kick butt video you made for this.
Yeah.
I saw the end result.
Yeah.
That was awesome, dude.
Yeah, it took a couple of tries, but yeah, the VO3.
Yeah, VO3 rocks. But the thing is that we're getting into this age where we all want these really quick, kind of accurate, very summarized answers. We don't want to see a bunch of links. We don't want to see a bunch of YouTube videos, things to buy, etc. We're all numb to this by now. And I think that the younger generation really wants a specific answer to a specific problem in a specific time period, and that time period is right now, because I got other stuff to do.
So I've got some search results. I'm using all of these platforms. I got Perplexity, Gemini, traditional Google search, AI mode, ChatGPT search. I've put in the exact same query. Can you tell us what you guys have observed when it comes to how these tools are evaluating businesses? What are they looking for? And what should businesses be paying attention to when it comes to their own marketing efforts on how to position themselves to succeed? So right now we kind of want to focus on let's focus on what these search engines or these AI tools are doing and how they're looking at it. And then next we can kind of dive more into, steps that you can take to help put your business in a position for success. We've got a few questions. So that relating to that. So, John's asking, do you guys have any tips on ranking higher in AI search? Hannah is also asking, what is the best tool available that businesses might be able to use to see what sorts of queries their business is turning up in as a result for? And so I think this is probably a good segue. And David asked, Justin, do you think most people are now using Google for navigational searches only? I don't think it's just navigational. I think there's a lot of people that are using Google for a lot of different things. That's just how I'm starting to notice that I use it. But I wouldn't be shocked if that's something that we see more of.
There's
also
a lot of
really interesting.
Yeah, there's actually been some recent studies on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now it's still, nothing's changed. It's primarily informational. Informational plus transactional is increasing, and local is not even touched.
Local, yeah. In terms of local, I'd still say Google is the strongest. But looking at these search results that we have right here for the best breakfast tacos in Austin, what's actually kind of interesting though is every single one, I believe, has this one business as the number one result, Veracruz.
Really?
And they've got
all of them?
Yeah. So Veracruz. Yeah. So this is Perplexity.
Okay.
This is Gemini.
Okay.
This is ChatGPT Search. This is Google AI Mode.
And how many times have you been to this place, Justin?
I've never been.
Okay.
Which is kind of sad as an Austinite, but yeah. And then this is traditional Google search. This is the AIO.
So if I'm glancing at so here's what's interesting to me about this, which aligns very much with local SEO in general. If you look at the citations that you see on the right on all of these different ones, they are all top 10 lists of reputable websites like Yelp, The Infatuation, Eater, etc. And what that tells me, and you don't get on there unless you have a really, really good business and you have a history of getting good reviews and so on. So at the end of the day, I see a lot of questions coming in, and Ben and I will get into tactical, nerdy SEO stuff and content creation strategies and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's how good is your business? Are you delivering the best tacos in Austin? If you are, and you're doing it consistently, you're likely going to get written about. And that's what these tools, these new AI tools in particular, are referencing.
Oh, wait a minute, Adam. Are you saying what's old is new?
I might be saying something along those lines. It's everything's old is new. And it's so funny. You mentioned Will Scott when we were backstage, Ben.
Yeah.
Throwing around Barnacle SEO for the first time in 10 years or 15 years or whatever. I'm talking about it all the time because what's old is new again. And I actually have a blog post semi-drafted right now to write about as well. Too, so.
Nice. Yeah. And so right now I see a lot of people in the chat asking two questions. What can I do to rank higher? Stop asking that question, by the way, right now. And then what can I use to measure? And that's a great question. You should always ask that question. And we'll dig into all of this, of course, because I think we need to kind of look at these results a little bit further. But I mean, actually, you know what? We're going to segue back to that, Justin, I think, because this is really good.
Yeah.
Although I do want to say one thing, I guess, why not? And that is that, you know, Adam, you were talking about like the top 10 lists. And right now, these top 10 lists and these aggregators are a good way to get in there, to get into AI reviews, or at least part of it. But one of the things that we were talking about at PubCon with quite a few people is that enjoy it while it lasts. This is not going to last long. Historically, this ends in a very bad way, meaning that if you put all your eggs in this basket, I give you about 6 months, because they're going to change, because people are going to game the system.
Yep.
Just like they're going to. I was talking to a PI lawyer. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, AI overviews, we're all over that. I was like, okay, great. What strategies are you using? We hired 80 people to go on Reddit and start conversations on our behalf. And then finally somebody will mention our company. Oh, okay. Got it. So you're manipulating the system.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to last.
Yeah.
So chill out on that.
And I'll say this, like I see tools being asked and so on. One thing that's working, and by the way, get it while you can, if you can. But one thing that's being touted as working very well, and I've seen it firsthand working really well, is creating hyper-specific blog posts and guest posts and content on your site. And there's a lot of tools that are out there right now that is essentially it's AI generating content for AI. So you can do it very quickly. And it's working. Like I've seen it firsthand that it can be helpful. That is, like Ben just said, that is like, it's great now. That is not going to last very long. I give this like a year at most otherwise people are going to stop coming to these AI sites for answers, if that's the kind of stuff that they're relying on. So
or it's AI feeding on AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like AI slop generating more AI slop, it's like one thing after another. And it's crazy the amount of emails that I get from all of these new startups that are doing nothing but that right now, and success, and showing me firsthand successful results of their content ranking in these AI chatbots and so on. And yeah, it is working now. And for everybody on the call, if you want to experiment with it, I wouldn't suggest test everything. I think it's something Ben and I are both fond of doing. Push the limits on everything as much as you can without risking getting blacklisted. But if it seems too good to be true and too easy to be true, it probably is, at least in the long run.
Yep. And also you got to remember, and Adam kind of alluded to this, there are penalties for these things. Penalties already exist. I remember I was at, again, PubCon. This was over almost a year and a half now. But at PubCon, doing a session about AI, right, moderating it. And then all of a sudden, so Lily was in the audience, Lee Ray. Shout out to Lily. And she's like, hey, breaking news, Google just rolled out a penalty for mass creation of content. So everybody who's been building those WordPress sites, that automatically create 1,000 topic pages, guess what? You just got slammed with a manual penalty.
Hold on. What year is this?
This is a year and a half ago.
Because so this is them like constantly battling that, right? Because I'm thinking of like a lot of the stuff that I see being built out now reminds me of, do you remember those how-to sites? I forget what the algorithm.
Oh God, yes.
Like how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how to make a peanut butter and honey sandwich, how to make a tuna fish sandwich. And they used to rank everywhere on Google, and then an update happened and they disappeared.
Yep.
I'm seeing similar. Like I feel like this is kind of the age that we're in again right now. So we'll see what happens.
Exactly. I do want to throw out one tactic though. Why not? Let's feed our audience real quick.
Yes.
All right. So this is something you can do, which is probably future, and I say this with big quotes, future proof, meaning that it is holistic. Okay. And it's based on old SEO tactics, which you've been working for so many years. But start out with your concept. Example, you're in the local SEO industry. I think you guys are in the local SEO industry, right? You're in the local SEO industry. So you want to do 100 tips on local SEO that work in 2025, right? but also worked over the past 15 years.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this yourself, obviously this is like a huge project. You've got like 13 people working on it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And, it's going to take you forever to get done. And you're probably going to forget about it because something more important comes up, right? But now what you can do is you can, again, go back to either like, I personally would use ChatGPT for this. You do the deep research. You do a query that has some guardrails in it, right? So you're just going to basically do a prompt ladder in a sense. And you're going to basically tell it exactly what you want. And it's going to go out, it's going to do its deep research, right? It's going to come back with a huge page of citations and sources and data and everything like that. You can refine your queries even further at that point if you don't like the data or if you need more data. And then what you can do is now you can say, okay, great. Atomize this down to 100 different topics for me, please, and give me the overall view of each with the sources, with blah, blah, blah pieces of data that you're going to basically use to build your article and your concept. Do that. Have it export it as a Google Sheet. Now that you've got the Google Sheet, now you can go back, start up a new session for each one. Or just do it within the same session. It'll get confused, but you could do it in the same session. Either way, now you're going to start building out basically you just have it automatically go and build out the outline for you, fill in some data, then you take it and you give it to your editors, or you start editing it yourself. Either way, you've taken a huge project and you brought it down to something very, very tiny, and you're creating useful content, not AI slop. And this is what Google wants, and I'm assuming these newer engines are going to want, is something which is not AI slop, and it is actually well researched. Thank you, AI, and well written. Thank you, team. So that's my one tip for the moment.
Can you explain deep research real quick? We had a question from the audience. What is deep research in terms of like these AI models? Because now I think it started with ChatGPT, I believe, but now pretty much every of the major models has some form of deep research. How would you explain that?
You want to go out? Want to take a stab at it?
You're on a roll. Why don't you take this one?
Jeez, okay, fine. Justin, why don't you bring up ChatGPT and start a deep research session? Ask it about, I don't know, let's say, what are the best reputation management tools? Using Birdeye as an example, please give me a comparison of all the features and what's actually working for businesses, something like that. Again, something normally this, to get this kind of an answer would take forever, right? To get, well, you say, how long would it take you? Shout out in the chat. All right, so deep research, what is it doing? Well, we're about to show you what it's doing. We'll have an answer here probably within the next 10 minutes. Oh, wait, nope. You didn't select research, did you?
Yeah, this one down here.
You did?
Yeah, usually it does ask me a couple of questions. So that's one thing that is different than
that's right.
ChatGPT, is that it asks you questions for extra context and clarity.
That's true. That's true. I've noticed it doing that too. So basically what deep research is at its core is a way of prompting the LLMs to go out and do what you would do. It's basically going to prompt the LLMs to go out and do what you would normally do, or what a researcher technically would do. And as you can see here, what it's doing is it's starting the actual research. What's going to happen next, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to start. You can be able to click on this and see, quote unquote, read exactly what it's doing, what the sources are, and then what it'll start to do, which is something I think is pretty neat, is it's going to start asking itself questions. So in other words, it's basically building its internal prompt ladder. These are questions that you may ask or a human may have asked when they're doing research, but it's going to do things like, I found this really awesome citation on this website. I wouldn't change the mode right now if I were you.
Yeah, I was just looking research.
But yeah, it'll start asking questions to itself like, oh, I found this out on this site. Maybe this is a good way to something I need to research, and it'll start to fork off. And that sounded horrible, fork off. But it'll move off and start basically looking at things on its own. So there's no prompting necessary at this point. And what it's going to do is it's going to summarize everything out for you in a very nice, easy way to read, answer basically, which is going to be very long with lots of citations. It's pretty amazing what you can do with it. And I'm just going to give one example of something that you can do with this. And I just did this the other day. And basically, yes, Kim, in a sense, that's correct. It's basically just helping you with the research portion of things.
Yep.
Which creates the quality content at the end of the day versus just automating it. So, but lastly is so a friend of mine is looking for a job, and they're very highly skilled. So it's an extremely hard job to actually find. So what do you normally have to do is you have to go to all these job sites and try to figure it out, right? Well, not if you have a good prompt. If you have a good prompt with deep research, it came back with over 100 different jobs that this person was qualified for. It took 20 minutes. Something that would take weeks to do. And then I said, oh yeah, build me a click on that. Actually, just go back to it real quick. Should be able to, not yet. Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep. So as you can see, ChatGPT in deep research is basically telling you everything it's doing. But anyway, then I asked it to go ahead and put it out and put it into a Google Sheet for me. And it did that too. And then I said, well, build me a tracker. How can I track my jobs? And it built me a tracker. So there's a lot of stuff you can do if you think about all of these tools, I guess, logically.
And the thing that's important for everybody in this webinar is you do not need to know how to code. You do not need to know how to write SQL queries. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. The natural language text is very useful here, and it's going to make this type of deep research that Ben is talking about and Justin is demonstrating, something that was previously outside of most of our abilities, very, very easy and within reach for everybody here.
Yeah,
100%. And look at that.
So
look what it's doing. It's amazing if you think about it.
Yeah, going through different companies, competitors. I mean, it really, yeah. This is a tool. This is a feature I don't use enough. So while this is going, Ben, you mentioned something in our kind of our kickoff call for this discussion is one of the best kind of advice that you can give businesses right now, especially when it comes to all the volatility and when it comes to what can businesses do right now to help put themselves in the best position for success. Because it's really hard to say, do this and you'll be in the AI overviews or you'll show up in ChatGPT Search because this is so new and it's so new. I mean, it's really, there's no predictability in it yet. But you said something that was really interesting, and that was that it's now more important than ever for businesses to control their own narrative.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Sure. Adam, do you actually want to start? I feel like I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
You want to go, Adam?
Yeah.
I was reading a lot of the questions that came in and was half paying attention to what you said. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So in our kickoff call, Ben so basically I was trying to get an understanding of this stuff is so volatile. It's, it's impossible to say if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to rank first in ChatGPT search. It's just, you can't speak, even in traditional SEO, you can never really make guarantees. But one thing that Ben said that really caught my attention was the best thing a business can do right now is control their own narrative. And maybe that's, across your entire brand with, not just with your Google business profile and your reviews, but with your social media and with your other listings and your website. You have to control the narrative, especially as we were talking about, with these AI overviews, they can have misinformation. They can have things that are wrong about your business. Yeah. So it's more important than ever to control your brand and your narrative online.
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny looking at this. I see I still think about things from the owned, earned, paid sort of way you can control your reputation online, which is what do you own and you have complete control over. Your website would be a good example of that. What can you earn? And that could be reviews on third-party sites. It could be guest blog posts. It could be news PR or newspaper articles written about you and so on. And then what can you pay for, which is more like SEM and paid advertising. if you look at this deep research right now, it looks and it appears to me that it is primarily focusing on owned, what the information that each of these businesses own. And that is what I'm seeing as well too. The number one place when people, I do a lot of queries right now as we're designing products for future release. Stay tuned. There's some really exciting stuff happening. But one of the types of queries I'm doing is tell me everything you know about this business. And the first place that all of these different tools are going to are your website. So the most important thing, like Ben said, what's old is new again. Before you start worrying about getting on Reddit, before you start doing all these other things, make sure that your own house is in order first. Make sure that you have all the information about your business that somebody would want to see about it. Make sure that it's structured in a way that these tools can easily parse. So think schema formatting. It doesn't even need to be marked up though. I mean, just make sure that it's tables, very consumable and so on. These bots are not as sophisticated as Google is in terms of being able to execute JavaScript and so on yet. So if you can render it and make it flat instead of something that needs to be executed, that's going to help as well. And make sure that you're also not just talking about your business, but I see a lot of instances where if you can say this is us versus our competitors, that can be very, very powerful as well too. So my main piece of advice here, based on what I think the question was, Justin, is get your own house in order first.
Yeah. And after you get your own house in order, now you need to start spreading that, right? And making it the fact. They say if you say something enough, people believe it. Well, guess what? That really matters in this case, actually. It really, really does. It's like early on when these search engines were starting to come out about 2 years ago, I had a conversation with Murray Haynes about this again at PubCon. I like going to PubCon. But I was sitting down with Murray and we were like, well, let's put the evil black hat on really quick, and start thinking about how can we manipulate these results, right? All good SEO, by the way, starts out that way, right? You think about the bad first, or the way you get around it first. And so, the concept is like, what would you do? What would happen if you were to, I don't know, put on your website about something completely that you don't do, but it's awesome. And then you were able to get somebody to actually pick it up and put it into, let's say, a news story on the New York Times or something like that. And you were able to get blogs, I don't know, maybe about 100 bloggers to say the exact same thing. Would that become true? The answer is yes, by the way. You're looking for a silver bullet for today? Fine, I'll give you half of a silver bullet. You do that, basically. You put the information on your website, you make a blog post, you take that blog post, you atomize it, and you put it out into a lot of different areas, especially authoritative blogs, etc. Bang, guess what? You're ranking the AI overview. So the concept does work, but it works outside. Well, not outside, with your house, like Adam is saying. So, but on that note, somebody was asking in the chat, what about disinformation? What about when the AI overview gets it wrong? I can tell you for a fact it gets it wrong. If you search for my company with the word reviews, you will get basically this entire AI overview that shows, what my company's about, who we are, blah, blah, positive reviews, positives and negatives, and then a summary, right? The last one. Okay, what does it say? It's no, not the negative work environment. No,
Questionable tactics.
Questionable tactics. There we go. Questionable tactics. So with questionable tactics, if you dig into it, the source you're going to get is Reddit. It's actually about a different company completely. It was written about a year ago. And then there's two people in the chat which are basically saying, no, you should hire Steady Demand to do this. And then all the way at the end, there's somebody who's talking about questionable tactics of the original company, not Steady Demand. And that's actually what comes up, right? So it's very interesting how the Google's AI is basically conflating the data and mashing it together as if it's truth. And this is what you need to watch out for, is, reputation management companies, actually at this point, if you're not working with a reputation management company, you probably should start to. And if you're not a reputation management company, you better start thinking about how to integrate it into your workflow, because this is actually what's going to be important. It's not that damaging today, but as we move down the line and these tools get more sophisticated, pulling more pieces of data, understanding intent, it's going to get worse. And you're going to have to constantly double check your data. You're going to have to constantly go ahead and submit feedback and then hope the feedback's actually taken.
Yeah.
I would also say, as going back to what I had said before, I firmly believe that these tools are going to have to get better or risk losing all of the momentum that they've built as well.
Mhm.
So whether they're relying crowdsourcing feedback, as these tools often want to do, so they don't have to do it themselves, or whether they continue to improve their algorithms. Either way, if you can send them feedback, I would be, if you see something incorrect.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed that has not changed over the course of the life of the internet, really, and maybe even just the life of business transactions, is the importance of customer reviews.
Sure.
And that's because those are real customers who are sharing their real experiences about a real business. And they are increasingly being looked to as the source of truth, similar to like Reddit, where people are talking about their experiences.
Yep.
Those reviews, whether it's on Yelp, whether it's on Google, Facebook, whatever it may be, those are a powerful sense of truth for a lot of these models. Like when we were looking at the taco search, like here, let's see. Hey, this is its thought process. I can't find it. But essentially, there was a few of these searches that showed like reviewers say that this is the best place because it has a great migas taco or whatever it is. And they say like, people are saying this. A lot of its citations, or even, even these like third-party sites of like the 19 best taco places in Austin, that's essentially kind of like a customer review. Customer feedback is a very important element of your online reputation, and it's a very important thing that you should be part of your narrative as well. What role do you see your traditional online reputation, whether it's your social media activity, your reviews? Do you see that importance changing or becoming more important or becoming less important? Maybe it's your listings and making sure that your information is accurate, kind of like what you were saying, Ben, about expanding it out past your house and making sure that you are controlling the narrative on these other platforms and channels as well.
Yeah.
I'll jump in first, Ben, if that's okay.
Please, of course.
Finish off and counter if you choose. I would suggest that as things happen, one of the biggest ways to move the needle in terms of your visibility, in terms of not just visibility online, but in terms of getting people in your door, is to really focus on reviews, your social media presence, and so on. That hasn't really changed. Like, keep in mind, we're spending all of this time talking about AI, but what's the stat? Like, there's 70 or 80 searches on Google for every one search that happens on ChatGPT. And again, like we said at the beginning, the majority of ChatGPT searches are still informational in nature. So focus on the fundamentals that you have been doing. And well, Gemini, the interesting thing about me saying that, what's really interesting is when I was doing some research with Gemini, you would expect them to rely almost entirely on Google reviews. Like, you would think that's like the best data set that they could possibly have to make recommendations. They're not. I see in the limited research that I've been doing, which is not that limited, I see them referencing Yelp lists, the same thing that ChatGPT and others are as well too. That it's a matter of time though. Again, you go to any Google search results and anybody using Google Maps, reviews is going to be such an important part. So I want to make sure that yes to all of these new things and these new tactics. Don't forget the basics though. Like, I think that's really important and often lost in the conversation.
Yeah, the core foundation of your online reputation is still the core foundation of your online reputation today, as it was 10 years ago. It's those reviews. It's making sure your information is accurate. And Ben, over the course of the last few years with our webinars, one thing that you've said is when you provide content on your website, write it for the person reading it, not for the algorithm. Make it helpful, quality information Don't try to jam a bunch of keywords into it because you think that's what the algorithm will like. But if you make it understandable, easy to read, and actually helpful with quality information, and you're writing for the person who's actually reading it and you're not writing it for the algorithm, that will actually take you further.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the way it's been in this industry since day one before Google. You know, I mean, even when we were trying to get people ranked on, well, no, that would be a lie. That would be a lie. Yeah. I was going to say, wait a minute, content didn't exist back then.
Really
you just submit to Yahoo. You submit to Yahoo, and you ranked, or Dogpile or whatever. But look at these results, man.
Yeah,
look at these
results.
Real quick though, I'm going to answer this succinctly, because I saw a question that aligned with this way earlier. Somebody in the chat asked something like, "Should a blog post that I write be 2,000 words or more?" That is exactly what we're talking about, everybody. It doesn't matter. The length of the blog post should be dictated by the subject that you're writing about and the message that's going to be interesting to your audience.
Exactly. So if I'm asking about how I'm going to make a pineapple pizza, I don't need 2,000 words to tell me how to make a pineapple pizza. As a matter of fact, you just pissed me off and I'm going to another blog.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yes. So, but yeah, I mean, anyway, I don't know. Where were we going with this one? Yes, so, optimize for humans. Correct.
Yeah, optimize it for humans. But when I think about the potential challenges of trying to control your narrative, because now you do have to go kind of broader. You have to have this reach. It is a lot harder to do that with limited resources, which is why AI is great. It allows you to do more with less. But the difficulty, one of the most common pieces of advice that I've given almost every single webinar we have when it comes to generating reviews is the best way to generate more reviews is to ask all of your customers for a review. It's a numbers game. The more people you ask, the more reviews you get. If you're a decent enough business, you will have more happy customers than unhappy, but the only people who will go out of their way to leave a review are the unhappy customers. But if you send an email, if you ask them, before they leave the building, or if you're, at the home services and you're on their site or at their house doing something and you ask them for a review, that little request may be just the smallest push that they need to actually be like, I'll leave a review. And when you ask everybody it's just a numbers game. But the difficulty with that is how can you do that consistently? Like if you have 100 locations, or you can't train every employee at every location to remember to always ask for a review every time. It's just not, plausible. But that's also why using tools like Birdeye to automate these processes and allow you to scale this stuff effectively and consistently is important. Because, Ben, I'm sure you can confirm is having a lot of reviews is great. Having a lot of positive reviews is great, but consistently generating new reviews, regularly is also extremely important. Like if you have 1,000 reviews, but the most recent one was 6 months ago, that might not be relevant anymore. So that consistency is with your reviews, but it's also with things like your social media, especially more and more. I mean, I know that there are, I'm sure you guys have seen when you go to the Google search results, there'll be Instagram posts in the search results now. Sure. And having that consistency across the web is extremely important. And this leads perfectly into something that we've been working on at Birdeye, across all of our products, but most recently across our social. And in our social media platform, or in the social management tool that we have, Social AI, we've just released what's called the Social Publishing Agent. And essentially what this does is it uses AI to analyze the best times for you to post wherever it's based on your engagement. It's based on a bunch of different options or values and variables and things. But essentially it takes the context of your brand. So you can give the Birdeye AI your brand guidelines. You can give it links to your website so it knows how you write. It knows the reading language. It knows the terminology. And it also uses what it knows about your specific industry to help create social content, but not just create it, but actually get it all the way to the point where the last thing you have to do is click publish. Adam, I know you're heavy on the side of the products and stuff. When it comes to the social publishing agent, what is one of your favorite parts about the new updates? You know, what makes it useful?
Yeah, it's essentially having a social media expert at your side when trying to figure out what to post, when it should go out, and so on. So I'll bring this up like one extra level, and I know we're out of time, but when thinking about our platform and how we're thinking about building products, we really want to take all of the expertise that we have internally at Birdeye and make it available for you 100% of the time as you're utilizing the platform. This social media publisher is a great example of that. There's much more coming out later this year, including a really exciting listings agent that's also going to be released in the next month for all of our listing clients as well too. So stay tuned for that.
I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, and like just right now, what I'm showing is these are posts that were created and put on the calendar automatically. They're based on, so you can have it with tokens for each location. It comes up with the images. It can source it from like a stock image from Pexels. It can use AI to actually generate the image for you. And then if you want to, you can schedule the post and make any edits you want. So if it doesn't quite nail, you know, like with all AI, there's always something that you want to make sure you put in, you know, to make it your own. You can make those edits. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, kudos to you guys, Adam and the team. You guys have been doing some incredible stuff lately. This is just a demo account, so it's probably not going to work well for me right here. So I'll stop sharing. But I'm excited. I think the stuff that you guys I've heard about and the stuff that we've just released and the stuff that's coming, especially when we unveil a lot of this at Birdeye View in September, is going to be awesome. I'm really pumped.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah. And so thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are going a little over time. I think we could have easily gone for another hour if Sia in the background didn't give us that message. But if you want to continue your learning, be sure to check out the docs. As a reminder, you will get a link, an email around this time tomorrow to take you to the recording. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. The email address is just hello@birdeye.com, or you can contact us on LinkedIn. You know, I think in the speakers tab, we have our LinkedIn's linked. So you should be able to do that. Links to docs are broken. Okay, thank you, Hannah. I can send those. That's interesting. Maybe it's just one of them. No. Yeah, they're all working for me. So I don't know, but hopefully that gets fixed. But yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ben and Adam, so much. Adam, I hope you enjoyed your first appearance on the webinar series here. And Ben, it's great to see you again as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Ben. It's great.
Cool. Yep. No, great to see you, Adam. Justin, it was awesome to meet you in person, actually, when I was in Austin.
Yeah, I was able to sneak by and check you out at PubCon. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.